This man just received 5 years in prison for burning down this YouTuber's house, and the entire situation just has this like really weird story behind it because it's unclear who hired this man and why he did this to begin with.
Hired muscle who firebombed the YouTuber Jordan Shanks' Bondi home in 2022 has been handed 5 years in prison. The judge ruled the arson was a semi-professional attack on a journalist.
So apparently trying to burn down a journalist's house in Australia gets you about the same punishment as stealing a car here in the States. Obviously, that's not 100% accurate, but when I heard about this case, I was shocked to hear the sentencing. 5 years? That sounds incredibly low for burning down someone's house. Because the other day, the man who torched the home of the Australian YouTuber, Friendly Jordies, was finally sentenced. And while he stood there on video apologizing from the bottom of his heart, the whole thing just kind of left way more questions than answers. Like, who paid for it and why did he do this? So let's start with the update because we have Tufi Jr. Tuis Alulua, not the easiest name to pronounce. Aulua. Tufi Jr. Tuis Alua. Yeah, we have the dude who torched the guy's home. And he, I guess, is the potential muscle for hire. And he's been sentenced to 5 years in prison for his role in the 2022 arson attack on the home of the YouTuber Jordan Shanks, better known as Friendly Jordies. During the hearing, Tufi logged in via video from Norwa prison and gave the usual, "Hey, I've turned around my life" speech, essentially saying he was over this past life of crime. And honestly, those are bold words from a man who, according to prosecutors, stole a Mercedes, cloned the plates, scoped out a house, then poured petrol in 3 separate spots before setting it ablaze. The fire then destroyed the front veranda and door, damaging the bedroom, hallway, and even spread smoke into the neighbor's home. Shanks wasn't there, but someone easily could have been. And the court admitted they still don't know the motive. Like, there's no evidence the pyromaniac over here knew who Shanks even was. Like, he wasn't in any videos, he'd never been mentioned, and he had no personal beef with them, which raises the obvious question, why does a complete stranger go full-on Ocean's 11 on a YouTuber's house? And to get into that side of the story, it's important to know a little bit about who Friendly Jordies is. Friendly Jordies is the online alias of Jordan Shanks, a political commentator, comedian, and investigative YouTuber. And this has landed him a loyal fan base and apparently a long list of enemies. According to Shanks, some of these enemies are in high places. Over the past few years, Shanks has repeatedly clashed with powerful figures, including former South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro, who sued him for defamation over videos. Shanks eventually settled the case with an apology, but he never stopped his content. And I'll mention both sides of this really quickly, just so you guys get the picture. His critics basically say that he goes too far because he makes fun of politicians' personal lives and attacks their lawyers during an ongoing court case. His supporters, on the other hand, see him as one of the few independent voices willing to actually say what mainstream media won't. So, full picture, he's a controversial political commentary YouTuber who essentially had his house burned down. And it was obvious from the start of this thing 4 years ago that it was a hit. I mean, the neighbor's house got set on fire first, and this shows that someone was really trying to get to his place and then came back to make sure they got it done. And according to Friendly Jordies himself, part of the reason this case feels so unfinished is because of who isn't being questioned and why. In his view, the problem isn't about like one guy and one gas can, it's about a system that, in his words, seems more interested in silencing critics than holding powerful people accountable. Not that he's trying to dismiss the guy who set his house on fire, though.
This is not at all to excuse Tufi Jr. He tried to kill someone. He burnt down a house with no regard for not only the other potential occupants, but neighbours, which were the elderly, and for all he knew, could have been children. Even worse, because his motives are murky and seemingly transactional, he seems to have just been waved away with he was just the hired muscle. He tried to kill people. He burnt down a house. Things are a little bit scary in New South Wales, if you ask me.
But as he puts it, he does have a lot of potential enemies, so it really becomes a question of who was trying to end his life.
I think the reason it took longer is because at some point they said, quote, you ready for this? Do you have any enemies? To which I said, how long you got?
Meanwhile, since that original clip 4 years ago, he's been pointing out that the same police who can't seem to figure out who ordered a firebombing have no problem going after him. They arrested his employee, Christo, without a case. And they even tried to charge him with contempt for just making jokes about them in videos. And even filed a suppression order that was apparently so badly written, it kept calling his channel Friendly Jordies Chanel.
In the Western world, you'd be hard-pressed to find a larger, more politically compromised police force than the New South Wales Police, headed by a man who takes out the bins for Scott Morrison both metaphorically and literally. Not only that, it seems New South Wales Police Minister David Elliott supposedly has so much control over Commissioner Mick Fuller, he has gotten away with numerous clear-cut crimes that would land any normal people in jail. New South Wales Police Minister David Elliott has done everything from using illegal machine guns to impersonating cops, but apparently that behaviour doesn't even warrant a charge from the police force run by Scott Morrison's bin man.
And he made that commentary video like 3 years ago, and he still doesn't think the police have found the right people behind this attack. He doesn't really buy the random arsonist narrative either because, again, there's no connection to the guy who just caught 5 years for this and Shanks. So something's not adding up, that's for sure. I guess the whole thing was just treated like a case of a hired muscle gone rogue. Like, again, it just doesn't add up. And just months before the attack, Shanks has been uploading videos mentioning the Alameddine crime network, one of Australia's most notorious gangs. And when the ABC reported on the conviction, they made a point to say that he had mentioned the Alameddines 2 months before the fire. That's it, just mentioned.
There were some unsurprisingly cowardly and oblique hints of an answer in the ABC article about the conviction, an article which refers to me as an internet personality. Mr. Shanks, who uses the moniker Friendly Geordies online, had mentioned the Alameddine crime network in a video 2 months before his home was set alight. Just mention the Alameddines. A lot of people mention the Alameddines, Anton. The Alameddine crime network might be one of the most prolific gangs in this nation's history. They're nightly news. Some people bank their entire journalistic careers on talking about the Alameddines. They don't get their houses burnt down.
The judge himself called it a professional attack on a journalist, but apparently we're just supposed to pretend that it was just some bored guy with a can of gas. The point is, there is not an official answer here, not a full one at least. So what we do know is the arsonist, he tried to end his life. He burned down a home that could have easily had people sleeping inside, and he endangered neighbors. And for that, he got 5 years. So, again, sounds pretty low to me, but I guess to understand why this case hits so hard, you need the context, and I wouldn't really be covering this case fully if I didn't mention back in 2020, Shanks posted a series of videos calling out then Deputy Premier John Barilaro. Barilaro responded with a massive defamation suit against both Shanks and Google. Shanks eventually settled, apologized, and edited the videos, but Google, who refused to take them down, was found liable as a publisher and faced its own trial. And that's where things got weird, because during the case, the judge said that it was completely dumbfounded that YouTube allowed additional videos attacking Barilaro's lawyers to stay online. I would argue and say that that's because YouTube is kind of like a town square, not actually a publisher here. But one even called to solicit a dumb effer. Another accused them of submitting false declarations, and the judge called it a calculated attempt to intimidate, and considered referring Shanks and Google for contempt of court. Side note though, shout out Google and YouTube here for not removing a video because the government pressured them to do so. But in short, this trial was not just a spat, it was a full-blown war between a YouTuber and a political establishment. And then, in the middle of that war, his house was set on fire. And now we're here with one guy in jail, one guy's house is in ashes, and a laundry list of questions that I personally do not have the answer to. Because at the end of researching all of this, I'm kind of sitting here with more questions than I have answers. And I guess after watching all of Shanks' videos about the quote-unquote terror police, I was kind of staring at the screen like, well, yeah, that's terrifying. But from looking into all this and seeing how scary it all panned out, it really does seem like a little bit about power and intimidation. Who knows though? Whether you like the guy or not, his house was set on fire probably because of his YouTube content, and nobody knows who was really behind this. So, again, that's pretty terrifying. And then on top of that, the dude who tried to end the life of a journalist, he'll be out before the decade's over? Sounds a bit odd to me. And then, obviously, the people who ordered it, I guess they're just out free. So, that's fascinating.